we have it as the Honda CR-V HEV. Let's do a review. Honda is back in the hybrid game with the introduction of the Honda CR-V RSE HEV. Now in its 6th generation, this might be the best in the segment and one of the best buys today. The 2024 Honda CR-V 2.0 EHEV RS is rather pricey at 2,590,000 Philippine pesos, but it's worth it. We've reviewed the mid-grade 1.5 VX Turbo all-wheel drive variant, so we won't be diving deep into the details. Be sure to check that review as well. Anyway, this gets the same overall look with a few differences here and there. Being the RS, the body cladding is painted in the same color as the body for a sleeker look. The 18-inch alloy wheels are the same as well, but painted in black and wrapped in Dunlop SP Sport Max tires. More on these when we're on the road. The rear bumper also appears to still have dual exhaust pipes, but only one is real on this variant. RS badging can also be found in the front grille and at the back. The full LB headlights have been upgraded to Matrix LB headlights, and we also now get cornering lights. Opening the power tailgate reveals more space here in the RS, being a 5-seater. This gets a lower load floor, which means taller items can fit better. Volume-wise, it's at 581 liters. The downside here though is the lack of a spare tire, as the hybrid battery can be found under the floor. You do get a tire repair kit instead. And now we're inside the Honda CR-V RS EHEV. And yeah, just like the exterior, this is pretty much the same on the inside compared to the all-wheel drive variant, which we already reviewed. So the overall design is the same, but there are a few materials here that are a bit different. So we have this new full brushed aluminum plastic over here. It looks very nice. It adds a sporty touch compared to the elegant faux wood that we see on the all-wheel drive. Then also we have red stitching all around, so here in the steering wheel, here in the shifter, and here on the seat. So that also adds a bit of sportiness, just like the name RS. And then what I really like here is the panoramic sunroof, which was added to this variant. I was hoping we have this on the all-wheel drive, but it's here on the RS, and it does help add a lot of light into this cabin. And then the rest is the same, so materials on the dashboard, soft touch plastics on top. Again, we have that faux aluminum over there, and here in the door panel as well, it's the same thing. Everything is soft touch, and everything inside this car feels very solid, so it feels very well built, and that I really like. Then features are also basically the same, so we have a 10.2-inch digital instrument cluster, the fully digital here. The only difference here is that the temperature gauge on the left is now the battery charge level, and also here a power flow meter showing how the hybrid system is currently functioning. Same here in the infotainment system, we still have the same 9-inch touchscreen infotainment system with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is very responsive, very easy to use, very simple, and probably one of the best infotainment systems you can get to date. The screen is a bit small, but if you compare this with other larger screens, this works way better, so I'd actually prefer this one instead. And we also have the addition of the power flow meter as well here, showing our battery charge level, showing our current fuel economy, and where the power for the vehicle is coming from, if it's coming from the engine, or if it's coming from the battery, or if we are currently charging. Then here in the center console, we have our usual Honda shifter, so that does feel very nice. We have B mode instead here because this is a hybrid. Then our drive mode selector here for the RS, so I really like the sound that it makes. So we have, of course, Econ, Normal, and Sport mode. And again, the sound that this makes is actually pretty nice. Then going back to the screen, we have here, as you can see, the 360 camera. So the CR-V is actually the only Honda in our market right now, I believe, that comes with a 360 camera. It's pretty good in terms of its resolution. It's not the best compared to its Chinese rivals, but it will do. We also have there, of course, the lane watch camera, which I think is still one of the best things you can get from a Honda, because it's really helpful. It really shows you everything in your blind spot, although I do wish that the resolution would already be improved since it's getting quite old. And before we get to the back, let's talk about these seats again. So like in the all-wheel drive, they're very comfortable, they look very nice, and the leather material they've used is pretty nice. Again, the difference here is the red stitching, but yeah, it's pretty much the same as what we get in the all-wheel drive. And just like there, we have memory function for the driver's seat, so we have presets, just one for driver 1 and driver 2, so you can save your seating position so it won't be too hard to drive it again after someone else drives the car. And now we're here at the back seats of the CR-V EHEV. One thing to note though is that the CR-V EHEV is only a 5-seater, unlike the all-wheel drive and the V turbo variant. So those are 7-seaters, this one 5-seater, and that does benefit this car actually because we have a more comfortable second row seat. So this is lower, and I don't know if it's just me, but these seats are a bit softer compared to what I remember. So yeah, that's really nice. And we have here a center armrest with 2 cup holders, and these seats, yeah, they feel really nice. They're very comfortable, and there's lots of space back here. We don't have to give way, if ever, to a third row passenger. So loads of leg room, knee room is plentiful, headroom is pretty okay. It's a bit tighter because of the panoramic sunroof, which I mentioned earlier, but yeah, this is pretty good. And we have here those dome lights that turn on when you touch the lens, so that's very nice as well. Materials are a bit downgraded, just like in the all-wheel drive, so we have hard touch plastics instead here on the door panel, but we still do have the leather armrest, the red stitching here in the seats on the armrest, so that's all good. And we also have less aircon vents, by the way, so now we only have 2 over there and 2 USB-C ports. We no longer have the vents on the ceiling, but that's okay. And now we're driving the Honda CR-V RS EHEV, and I have to say that this is still one of the best products. This is already one of the best products that Honda has given us. So just like the all-wheel drive which we recently reviewed, this isn't my first time to test drive the CR-V hybrid. And yeah, just like when I tried it during the Honda CR-V media drive a few months ago, it's still a really good car to drive. So first, let's talk about the powertrain of this car, because again, this now is a hybrid, so goodbye diesel for the CR-V. This generation CR-V no longer has the option for a turbo diesel engine. So this gets a 2-liter 4-cylinder iVTEC gasoline engine that is paired with dual electric motors. So Honda's hybrid system has dual electric motors, and in total it produces 207 horsepower and 335 Newton meters of torque, which are excellent numbers. So compared to the diesel that we had before, that only produces 120 horsepower and 300 Newton meters. So it is a huge difference compared to before now. If you do compare it to the all-wheel drive and base turbo variants, those are slightly lower. So those had 190 horsepower and 240 Newton meters. So not much of a difference, but still, these are good numbers, and you can really feel it once you drive the car. So response is excellent in this car. So put your foot down and it instantly responds. It's very quick. It's very fun, actually. It's very fun to push around, especially if you want, or if you like something that is very engaging. So that's what this car is like to drive, very engaging. So I just want to show it to you already. Let's put it on sport mode. Let's slow down a bit, and then you will hear that Honda has pumped in some faux exhaust sounds into the speakers of this car. So that really sounds good. And what you'll also notice is that when you were doing some hard acceleration, that it does have some fake shift. So that also helps in giving us something that does not feel very droney. So that also helps in that engaging drive. It doesn't feel boring at all. Doesn't sound annoying once you get to the higher revs. But anyway, when you're driving this normally, that's where this really shines as well, because it's just so comfortable to drive. So at lower speeds, you will be using pure electric power. You do get a bit faster if it cannot manage anymore with the charge of the battery, the charge level. It will activate the gasoline engine, which is actually quite seamless. So that's another good thing that Honda has done here. The transition from pure electric to the gasoline assist is pretty good. So it's very smooth. You don't feel it. It's very quiet. You won't even tell at all that you are actually using the gasoline engine. Now, some of you will probably be asking, how does the hybrid system in this car work? So honestly, I'm not a very technical person, so I am not sure how I'm gonna explain it to you in the simplest form. So I just won't do that. But what I'll say is that this is very similar to what we saw in the GWM Haval H6 that we've reviewed before, and it's a much better system compared to what you will find in the Toyota RAV4, which is this car's main rival. The perk of this one is that it will use pure electric power when it can. It won't use the gasoline engine at all, as long as you have the appropriate amount of battery charge. And then of course, if needed, you will be assisted by the gasoline engine. And that will actually translate to a very good amount of fuel economy, which we'll talk about in just a bit. But yeah, there were actually times that I did not have to use the gasoline engine at all because I had a fully charged battery after a bit of driving this car. So now, since we're entering a bit of a curvy road, let's talk about how this handles. So it's very comfortable as well, but at the same time it gives you a perfect balance of fun. That's what I told you in other Honda vehicles as well. They're very balanced when it comes to providing you comfort and providing you some fun driving. So steering is light, but it's just the right amount of light. It's not too light, and at the same time it does provide you a little bit of weight, which also makes it more fun because it also provides you more confidence when taking corners. So let's take this corner at a bit of a higher speed, and yeah, body roll is very limited. You don't feel it that much. There is a bit less grip in this one compared to the all-wheel drive because we only get front-wheel drive for the hybrid variant, unfortunately. But still, with agile handling assist equipped in this car, you won't even feel the need for all-wheel drive. Then that brings us to ride quality, because ride quality is excellent as well. The suspension is just perfectly tuned, so it's the right amount of firm, it's the right amount of softness, so you don't have a bouncy ride. It just takes everything with finesse. So bumps are barely felt. You will just really love how this car rides and put everything together, and it's just almost perfect. What I do think will need to be improved in this car though is road noise insulation, because unlike the all-wheel drive variant, this gets Dunlop SP Sport Max tires. The all-wheel drive variant gets Michelin E-Primacies, which are actually EV and hybrid tires. So that's actually weird that that is the case. But Honda is probably pushing for the RS-ness of this car. So sporty. So that's what this car is. That's why they put those sport tires in here. If I were to buy one, I'd probably just look for someone who's willing to swap out those E-Primacy tires for the Sport Max in this car. It'll be much quieter for sure and might actually ride a bit softer as well. But ride quality again is very good. Wind noise is also slightly more noticeable, but it's still not bothersome. So that's probably because of the panoramic sunroof, which I mentioned as well. And I personally do like having that, so it won't be an issue to me. You get some and then you lose some as well. And finally, probably one of the most important things about purchasing a hybrid vehicle, so that is fuel economy. Because when you're not pushing this car very hard, when you're driving it just normally, you will get excellent numbers. So inside the city with heavy traffic, I was able to achieve as much as 22 kilometers per liter, which surprised me. I wasn't expecting to get that number. Then there are also times that I was able to achieve as much as 30 kilometers per liter. I even saw 99.9 kilometers per liter here in the trip computer when the engine didn't turn on at all. So you really save a lot with this car. On the highway, by the way, I got 24 kilometers per liter, so not that bad as well. It's just pretty much the same city and highway driving. And also I'll have to add that right now we have about 4 bars of fuel left. And in most Hondas, 4 bars isn't a lot because they usually have very small fuel tanks. But with this one, we have 4 bars and more than 300 kilometers of range. So visits to the gas station will be very limited in this car. I've driven about 400 kilometers now, and yeah, we still have lots of range left. And lastly, I've already talked about this extensively in all of my other Honda reviews. Honda Sensing is fully equipped, of course, in the CR-V, and yeah, it's still one of the best systems. Not as good as Subaru EyeSight, but still up there, one of the best systems for sure. And of course, the fact that it's standard in every Honda CR-V and actually almost every Honda model now is something that's a really good thing for road safety. And actually, before we end, let's talk about something that I really hate about this car. I've mentioned this in the all-wheel drive as well, and it's the car's horn. So it just sounds so weird. It sounds like a clown horn. It's probably the first thing I'm gonna change if I buy this. And yeah, it just doesn't match how this car looks. It just sounds very weak and everything. I hate it. So yeah, I love everything about this car except that. The Honda CR-V RSE HEV may seem quite expensive, but you actually get more for less when compared to Toyota RAV4, its main rival. You'll definitely save with fuel costs without sacrificing driving experience, which is arguably one of the best to say the least. This is worth every bit of money. If you can afford it, this is the one.
beg you, I beg you, I beg you.